With the G1 Climax in full swing, the board of directors for Bushiroad, the majority owner of New Japan Pro Wrestling, has made the decision to replace current CEO Harold Meij later this month in a major shakeup. See what I did there? He will remain the CEO of the company until October 23rd, when he will be replaced by Takari Ohbari, the current CEO of New Japan America. According to a report in The Observer, Meij was not well liked by a lot of people in the company who thought that he was very divisive. They thought that he had a big ego, and they blame him for bungling things with the North American talent that left the company last year, which may have played a direct role in there being no working relationship at the moment between New Japan and AEW. There's always seemed to be this underlying tension, right? There's no, I don't say hatred, but there's definitely been some bad feelings, probably on both sides. And there's been this resistance to having any kind of real discussions between the two sides. You know, certainly you look at the NWA, Billy Corgan and the NWA, they've had an open line of communication recently with AEW, and they've been able to work together. And a lot of people have been wondering, what's going on with New Japan and AEW? And whatever angst might be there, hard feelings might be there, it seems like Meij is being blamed for the bulk of it. Now, per The Observer, Tony Khan said that he is not yet sure how this move might play out for them, but his initial gut feeling is that it could be a good thing for the two sides. And there was an unnamed top star in AEW who said that they have no idea if Meij being out means that they might open up a working relationship now at New Japan, but that they want to do it. There is a desire to want to do it. Meij was, in their words, an idiot when it came to understanding the wrestling business. This is according again to this unnamed top AEW star. Even though Meij has been he'd been a fan for many years, it's not like you hear stories about Jim Herd being brought in to lead WCW in the early 90s, didn't know what he was doing. He was an executive doing non-wrestling things. What did he know about the wrestling business? Meij, by all accounts, was a wrestling fan, still is. Worked for other companies like Coca-Cola in different places, and ended up in charge of New Japan. But they're hopeful, this person in AEW says that they're hopeful that things now might change with him leaving. I've said this all year long. You guys have heard me talk about this time and time again. You have a lot of the top talent in AEW that have worked for New Japan. Right? Cody's worked there, Omega's worked there, the Bucks have worked there, Hangman Page has worked there, others have worked there as well, that have established themselves to that New Japan audience. They have built a fan base, not only in this country, but in Japan as well. And they want to do business together, but whatever it was, there was always this underlying tension. And when Japan, New Japan lost their Access TV deal here in the States, that was a big blow to them. They didn't want to get into bed with Impact. They were given this ultimatum by Anthem. If you want to have a working relationship with Impact, they might still be on Access TV today. But they didn't want to do it. They had a working relationship with Ring of Honor. There was bad blood from past years with Impact, even though that was a totally different administration. It is kind of silly if New Japan doesn't want to work with Impact for that reason alone, because the people who were in charge at that time, that was many, many, many years ago. You think about when Russo was, booking a young Okada and stuff like that. That's ancient history at this point. But whatever it is, they didn't want to work with Impact. And when they lost that TV deal, it made it that much more important for them to get back in front of an American audience. And that's why it makes sense for them to want to strike up some kind of a deal, I'm sure, with AEW, because AEW has this great time slot, live television on TNT, one of the big major cable networks in this country, every single week. And it's possible that they could get some of their big names in front of an American audience on TNT, at least until they're able to get a TV deal of their own. New Japan set up an entire American division to try to do just that. They wanted to expand, they still want to expand their footprint here in America. And that has really hit a wall. since losing that TV deal. And then the pandemic hit, and they haven't been able to run any shows in this country. I want both sides to work together. I say this as a fan. I want both sides to work together. It is the talent exchange that we need. AEW has a surplus of tag teams. They have the most robust tag team division probably of any promotion anywhere in the world. They have so many tag teams, they don't even know what to do with all of them. Now imagine sending, if they're not doing anything, let's say on TV, so for a few weeks you're going to send the Lucha Bros over for the New Japan Tag League. Send Private Party over, or Best Friends. Imagine getting Kota Ibushi on TNT. You don't think that once they get crowds back into the buildings in front of those fans, the AEW fan base, that someone like Ibushi would not come across like a superstar? We already know that he would. We have evidence that he would. We have proof that he would. Look no further than the Cruiserweight Classic in WWE. Kota Ibushi worked with WWE before he ever worked with AEW. WWE wanted him in the worst way, and he was smart enough to say no. Kota Ibushi, sometimes I watch his matches and the abuse that he takes landing on the back of his neck all the time, and I think, boy, this is not a very smart person. But turning down WWE was probably the single smartest thing that he ever did in his entire career. He had the best matches of the whole tournament. He had Full Sail on their feet. Those are the kind of fans that you'll find at AEW events. You don't think this guy would get over like a superstar, like a fucking rock star? Or, someone like Ishii, that he wouldn't come over and also get over? Imagine sending Jungle Boy or Darby Allin to take part in the Super Juniors. So there's a lot of synergy. There's a lot I think that these companies could do together that the fans would really be excited about. Now, Meij, he did oversee a very lucrative period for New Japan. They were able to survive the pandemic largely off the back of the revenue that they generated from running those 2 Tokyo Dome shows at the beginning of the year. The first time they have ever run back-to-back nights at the Tokyo Dome. That came under the direction of Meij. And they didn't have to cut a single person during the pandemic. They didn't cut one wrestler. They didn't cut a single wrestler's pay during that entire time. People in the front office took pay cuts. Some of the executives supposedly took pay cuts so that they didn't have to take it out on the talent. Meij had his own fan club, which was very unusual for an executive to have a fan club. It's like Bruce Pritchard. Bruce having a fan club. I can't even fathom such a thing. I'm sure he must. Through his show with Conrad, he's got a lot of fans out there. But it'd be like Bruce Pritchard having his own fan club or something like that. It'd be very strange. It'd be very weird. And apparently that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I guess it goes to the whole thing about him having a big ego. But also, in the Observer report, it mentioned that he would often greet fans as they entered the buildings, and he would shake hands with them, and he would hand out items to them. See, I find that endearing. I don't know if that was brought up in the report as sort of a knock on the guy. Maybe it's not the traditional way of doing things in Japan. That doesn't even seem like it's the traditional way of doing things here in this country either. Although when I would go to Ring of Honor shows, Joe Koff from Sinclair, he would always be walking around at the Ring of Honor events. There were multiple times where I was just sitting in my seat and I would turn and he's standing next to me watching the show. I'd strike up a conversation with the guy. He was always, personable enough. Sometimes I'd see him or people like at the front when people would come in, but it is a rare thing. I find that endearing. I don't find anything wrong with that at all. I don't find anything wrong with the CEO of the company wanting to meet and greet fans as they enter the building. Only in wrestling would you have people upset that the CEO would greet fans entering the buildings thinking that he was trying to get himself over. Just get himself over for what? What does that even mean? He's trying to get himself over. To what, beat Okada for the title? That's only a thing here in America. You don't got to worry about that in Japan. We've had CEOs, we've had head writers in WWE and WCW putting themselves over and winning world titles. Not in New Japan. Harold Meij in the G1 is when New Japan would have jumped the shark for me. But I don't see anything wrong with that at all. The other stuff, that's a different story. I can't speak to that because I don't work there, but obviously there are a lot of people who are not part of the Harold Meij fan club. They didn't have their membership renewed for the big fan club. And it sounds to me like we may have just taken a giant leap. It's too early to know for sure, but it sounds like we may have taken one giant step towards a dialogue, a real dialogue, possibly opening up between New Japan and AEW. And that's a great thing.